What is going on YouTube? I am Lamont at large. Today I am in Spartanburg, South Carolina. Once again, talking about the unscrupulous practices of a funeral home. This time it's the First Family Funeral Home right down the street from where I'm standing right now. In 2015, a family brought their loved one who had passed away to that funeral home to have her cremated. And in the process, I'll explain why they kept her body basically hostage for 3 years. We're gonna go back to March of 2015. One 63-year-old woman, Mary Alice Pitts Moore, passes away at the age of 63. And of course, like we all have had a loved one pass away, it is a very hard and difficult time, especially when you live in the same household as the person who is now deceased. So Mary's husband, Fred Parker Jr., contacts the First Family Funeral Home in Greenwood, South Carolina to arrange funeral services for her. Now, she had a traditional funeral where she was in a coffin, and after the funeral, she was set to be cremated by said funeral home. Now, here's where the story gets a little bit dicey about he said, she said. You're going to be the judge, and I'm going to be very curious to get your opinion on who's telling the truth and who isn't. So they have a funeral for her at a church in Greenwood, South Carolina. About 100 people came to the funeral. This woman was very loved. A very loving woman, according to her husband, who liked reading encyclopedias and loved fishing. She just loved learning things. And after the funeral, the First Family Funeral Home comes to pick her up. Now, she's set to be cremated. In the article, the family says that they paid First Family $1,300 for the cremation. And that's about what a cremation costs. I heard that it can cost anywhere from $800 up to $2,000, depending, I guess, of course, where you live and who you're dealing with. They paid this funeral home $1,300. They pick up Mary, and the family has not heard back from the funeral home for maybe about a couple weeks now. Okay, so they go to the funeral home, which is in Greenwood, and the husband says in the article that every time he goes to the funeral home over there, it's always closed. There's no one ever there, and there's no one ever answering the phone. There's also a First Family Funeral Home here in Spartanburg, and it's across the street right there. That is the funeral home. Now, I don't know what happened, but we're gonna fast forward 3 years. So you reportedly paid this First Family Funeral Home right across the street. You paid him $1,300 to cremate your wife. And 3 years later, and you still don't have the ashes, you still don't have an answer, you don't know where your wife's remains are. So February 2018, one day, Fred Parker Jr. gets a call. And it's an investigator with the South Carolina funeral directors. I get that body of the state government that handles investigating funeral homes. There's only 2 investigators in South Carolina, so whatever funeral home they're investigating, it's going to be months and months before they even get to it. So the investigator is talking to Fred Parker Jr. and he says, "We found your wife." And he says, "Okay, well, what happened? Where is she?" He says, "Well, she's in this very funeral home right behind me, and her body was stored in this building, not cremated. Her embalmed body was stored in a room in this building that was not refrigerated, basically a storage room, for 3 years, just rotting away, mummifying. The owners of the funeral home at that time, 2 men, and mind you, they were both pastors, one Lawrence Meadows and one Roderick Cummings. They owned this very funeral home at that time. And the reason why Mr. Parker even found out what happened to his wife is that, of course, a disgruntled employee of this very funeral home called investigators of funeral directors in South Carolina and said, there's a body that's been stored here basically in a closet for the last 3 years, and the body's mummified now. The investigators come, they check it out, and the body was so badly decayed of Mary Alice Pitts Moore, they had to use dental records just to identify her. Now, as you can see, there's wooden boards right here in this funeral home. This funeral home, of course, lost its license back in 2018, and the former owners, they basically forfeited any kind of licensing of being able to do business in South Carolina. Now, Roderick Cummings at that time wasn't even licensed to do any kind of funeral business. And Lawrence Meadows, he lost his license in 2015 because in 2012, he forged a signature on a life insurance policy of somebody who he was preparing for their funeral so he could be the beneficiary of said life insurance policy. So this place has been closed down for quite some time. Of course, this is gated. I don't see a lock. Okay, all right. Okay, so this is the back end of it. Kids, I don't suggest you try this at home. Breaking and entering is a crime. I wonder if this place is open. Well, you know, you always got to check doors. But anyways, so they go ahead. Okay, as you can see inside, notice there's a board right there. Well, basically, when they lost their license, another funeral home business took over, I believe called Serenity. And I don't know what happened to them, but they have a working website on here. But to this day, this funeral home remains closed down. Eventually, they were able to get Mary's body back and have a to take her remains. And as you can see here, okay, this door is open, and okay, so this is just an empty room. I mean, who knows? Could this have been the exact room that they had that poor woman's body in? I don't know. This place still has power. I can hear the fan running in there. Who knows? This could have been the room where they kept her. I have no idea. I'm not trying to pretend that I know. Eventually, the two individuals, Lawrence Meadows and Roderick Cummings, they were basically slapped on the wrist. Now, sadly, Mr. Lawrence Meadows, the former owner of this place, he passed away of, I believe, colon cancer, because there was an article where he was on an NBC television program. Okay, there's a lot of bugs around here, so don't know what that's about. And he had colon cancer, and he passed away at the age of 43. And I'm not sure what happened to Roderick Cummings, but I don't believe he is in the funeral business anymore. At least South Carolina. We'll try one more door. Oh boy, I almost stepped on you. Hey, what are you doing? Just a gecko, just laying right there. Oh. This is odd. Oh, excuse me, I'm not trying to step on him. Yeah, I would feel really badly if I did. All right, this is the last door that could possibly be open. Well, I mean, I could always kick it down Kojak style, but not really my my thing. There's a caterpillar right there. I want to kind of walk around that. So yeah, this place is pretty much secured and locked down. Okay guys, so I'm gonna wrap this video up. I just wanted to talk really quickly about this weird story that I read online. Let me know in the comments below. The family claims that they paid the First Family Funeral Home in full, but the First Family Funeral Home, they denied that. They said that they were not paid in full. They were only paid a deposit, and basically they were owed money, which is why they kept her body the way they did. However, if you got $1,300 as a down payment and you were supposed to be paid in full the rest, wouldn't you at least do what the family requested in terms of do the cremation? I mean, just to not have a body in your funeral home. When they found her body, it was covered with blankets, and there was incense all over in the room to cover up the smell of her decaying body. And as you can see right here, the sign on their door now says Serenity Murray Mortuary. Now, out of office, please call for assistance. Well, if you can see inside, doesn't look like much of an office, if anything at all. And so, I don't know, just one of those weird stories of these funeral homes. So, I don't know if anybody out there is gonna do business with First Family Funeral Home or anybody associated with them, I would say, with all due respect, just be cautious about their nefarious business practices. Anyways, guys, I'm out of here. Lamont at large. I'll catch up with y'all later. Be good, y'all. Peace out.